Mwah. Hello ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to be reading A No Sleep by me. And honestly, I think it's pretty good. Some of the people down in the comments say it's pretty good. One person doesn't get it. Poor them. But overall, let's begin the story. It is called 5 Seconds. It takes only a fraction of a second for your mind to process faces. But what if you had a mental defect, expanding the time to 5 seconds? I had the defect. I've always stared at people's faces for 5 seconds to recognize their face. This defect became a curse on July 11th, 1985. My family and I were driving up to our cabin in the mountains, as any normal family would do. We stocked up on food and water. We had made it to the cabin after sundown. We unloaded the car, then we heard a loud click. We had locked the keys in the car. The nearest locksmith was 2 hours away. We had also left the keys to the cabin in the car. We had to sleep on the porch. That night, I slept poorly. I keep seeing something. I don't know what it was. I couldn't stare long enough to see its face. I just saw his body, skinless and blood-ridden. You could see his muscles and blood pouring from the void of his face. 9 hours after I saw it, I began to develop depressions on my head. Chunks of skin began to peel from my body. My parents found the spare car key shortly after the skin started peeling. We drove to the hospital. When we got there, my face had completely peeled and my muscles were showing. I was turning into it. They say I had 3 days to live, but I had other plans. I still have to stare at people for 5 seconds, but that is all I need to pass on the nightmare. Yeah, good enough. So, this is a special episode because that one's short. I'm gonna read this one by me, too. It's one of the ones that isn't the best. 5 Seconds is the best with 8 upvotes. So, this one isn't the best, but I'll put the link to the link in the description of both of these. So, let's begin. The running of the bulls. You most likely heard of the running of the bulls, but you haven't heard of the bull incident from 1987. On July 10th, 1987, people decided to release 10 times the amount of bulls they normally do. They normally release a small herd of 60 bulls running loose in the streets of Spain, and I was one of the runners. We set up barricades for a route for the bulls. It took us 9 hours to set up the barricades. The running began as usual. A few people hopped off onto the barricades before the incident. Those are the lucky ones. The bulls became more aggressive as the running progressed. More and more people were jumping onto the barricades and out of the way of the bulls. And then it happened. Bodies began to be impaled by the biggest bull's horns, their bodies splitting in half at the end of the horn. Some of the smaller bulls gutted the runners. I jumped off a little ahead of the bulls. Then the sound of the wood barricades breaking erupted behind me. The bulls broke the barricades. The bulls were gutting, impaling, and trampling random civilians. I ran to the tallest building with a balcony. The bulls had left the trail of blood and bodies about a mile long. The length of the carnage was growing by the minute, and there was nothing we could do to stop the bulls. We had to dig a mass grave for the bodies. The gravestone was labeled, "We're sorry." I can still remember the smell of the rotting flesh. To this day, you go to the area where the running of the bulls is held, and you may possibly find a stone labeled, "We're sorry." Yeah. Okay, this is going to be a super duper special one. We are going to read 3. This one has 4 upvotes, and someone said I should turn it into an indie movie. I can't make movies yet. But this one, Mikhail Studios did. I'll put that one in the description too. He recorded him saying it. It's different. He doesn't have my voice. So, this one is called The Problem with Children. Have you ever heard a child have a temper tantrum in the store? Well, being the mature adult man, I have a couple of times. It was a Saturday night, and I took my child to our local grocery store to help look for food. It was my day to have the child, and my wife gets it on Sundays. The store happens to close earlier than usual on Saturdays. The community has come up with reasons why they close so early on Saturdays. Some say the building is haunted. Others say it's for religious reasons. I know the truth of the store. The children. The owners gave away free candy to all the children. The candy has microchips in them, and being a child, they most likely ate the microchip whole. They trap the children and capture them after the drugs in the candy put them to sleep. The store then throws the children in the freezer. The freezer happens to have no handle on the inside, so anyone inside could possibly freeze to death. While the candy is still digesting the cold creates a chemical reaction with the candy. The candy expands, sealing your intestines. Before the children would wake up, they would place them back in their homes. My child experienced this. He had a temper tantrum in the store, and we asked to leave by the management. We got asked to leave by the management. We had always been loyal customers and friends of the manager. I didn't understand why this was happening to my child, and not my other friends' children. He was worsening by the minute, and had to go to the ER. We finally got to the emergency room and told them that my child's intestines were hurting. The more you move the drug in the intestine, the stronger and more volatile it becomes. I happened not to know that fact until after the incident. They attempted surgery. The monitor squealed with the straight tone. My child died that night. I still roam around the store. It's abandoned now. But every now and then you can see blood stains in the metal bottom where the freezer used to be. Except one spot. A spot the size of a small child remained without a blood stain. To this day, if you go in the Ohio woods, you may find the remains of an old store. The store where many died from having a temper tantrum. That was all 3 of my Nosleeps. Personally, I think the one 5 seconds is the decentest. It's the most upvoted, so it must be the best. So I'm gonna leave you guys off here. My voice is actually pretty creepy, so I'll see you guys later. I'll hope to read some more Nosleeps soon.